welcome to the podcast. I'm here with my friends here and my girlfriend. I have my girlfriend Josie, and then I have John and his fiance Melissa. Hey, everybody. And on this episode, we're going to talk about our experiences, supernatural experiences, dreams, anything weird that we've encountered while being here on Earth. so, I guess I can start because you didn't want to start, John.
No, I didn't want to start this.
Oh, calling him out.
Yeah. Okay. So
I don't want to take up all the air.
I have a lot of experiences, so I'll start off with one that I was talking about recently is shadow people. So I was living with my grandmother at the time, and I woke up in bed, and there were, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen. You already saw pictures of this. I shared it with you. I'll put it up on the screen. There were a bunch of shadow people standing around the bed, and they were just looking down at me, and I freaked out. I tried to move my body, but I couldn't. My body was paralyzed. It was the only time I've had a sleep paralysis where there were multiple shadow people just standing around the bed like that. Every other case, there was one or two, but they were like standing apart from each other. This time, they were all standing down, almost like as if I was on a table, operating table, and there's doctors all standing around you. It was kind of like that. And this is the only case where they actually had something somewhat to like eyes. It was like white-ish. They were kind of like not detailed, just kind of like atmospheric. You can see their eyes there. It was just white. I couldn't see detail. Same thing with the body. You just had the black silhouette. So essentially, that happened. My grandmother didn't see anyone else there, and it freaked me out. And that's around the time where she brought in a friend of hers who was just like gifted and stuff. She told me. She never told me before, even though she would always come visit the house. She told me after I started telling her about strange things happening to me that she was gifted and maybe she'd be able to help me out. And that's one of my stories. And what about you guys? Is there anything else you guys want to share or any questions?
I had something recently happen. It's so small, but it was so weird. So I started working at this new place and I cleaned for a lady. And I got there in the morning, and as I'm approaching her house and I'm getting to the door, all of a sudden, it's not uncommon for me to have songs stuck in my head, but Puff the Magic Dragon starts playing in my head, and I'm like working downstairs for a couple of hours, and it's just playing over and over in my head, like the only part that I know, because you know how that goes. And I get upstairs after an hour and a half, and I go into the little boy's room to tidy that, and I notice there's a book on the floor, and it's Puff the Magic Dragon. And I was like, wait a minute, what?
There.
I asked her about it, or I told her, I was like, this is so weird, and she was like, that is weird. She said that's her youngest, it's his favorite like song and book and everything, and she also said that her youngest used to see and speak to ghosts when he was a bit younger. And I was like, were they communicating something with me or that? I don't know. It was so weird. It's one of those moments where you just in tune to something. I don't know why. I don't know what the purpose was for that, but it was just trippy, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a synchronicity. Like, do you go to her house often? Or
yeah, 5 days a week.
So I wonder, like, if you kind of start paying more attention, if anything else will like get your attention. I'm kind of curious if like anything else.
I'm not sure. I haven't been looking out for things. Like, I go, I do my job. But if anything else happens, I'll let you guys know.
Definitely, I'm curious. Kind of does happen that way, just randomly, spontaneously.
Almost like too, it kind of makes me think about how we feel about this house that we're in now. that it's alive.
Mm.
And so it retains memories. And so, like, to the house, the child reading that book or singing the song or whatever is residual in that house around that room. So it could, in a way, be communicating to you without you realizing about Puff the Magic Dragon, thus going into the room and seeing the book there. So it'd be kind of like the house has like this positive energy in it, as far as that goes. I mean, it could be that.
Okay.
Melissa, you have some experience with shadow people.
Yeah. So this was years ago, like before 2006, I know. And I was still at my parents' house, and I would sleep upstairs above the garage in front of, and in front of my futon was a tube TV that I would turn off to sleep. Well, one night I woke up and I sat up and I looked at that TV that was off. And behind me, I saw, like, the reflection, I saw this shadow Grim Reaper thing walk behind me. And I thought my brother was playing tricks on me. So I turned around really fast and there was nothing there. So I was terrified. Like, it got to where I was seeing the shadow in the TV often. So I avoided that room and I was sleeping in my brother's floor for like 3 months. But over the course of the time, I kind of I don't know how I did it, but I kind of accepted it being there and I saw it as something more positive. So now, I'll still see it every now and again, but not very often. But so now when I see it, I feel more comfort. Like, I don't know if that's just my projection of it. It just kind of will come and like be in the corner, or I'll see it out of the corner of my eye, the shadow being, and I would just pretty much just was like, okay, well, you're not gonna scare me, whatever you are. I don't know what it is, you know. And so I see it as more of a positive thing than a negative. I've experienced it for many years now. In the very beginning, I thought I was losing my mind. I really thought I was losing my mind. And I was telling my mom about it, and she was just like, I don't know what to tell you, you know. But now it's kind of more of a comfort thing. If I don't see him for a while, then I'm like, well, where are you at? You know, kind of like, where's my shadow person at? You know?
It's almost like it's a guardian for you.
Yeah, kind of.
I've only seen like barely a glimpse of it, maybe once or twice since we've been together, which is about 8 years. Regardless about where we're living at. Like, I think when we were living in the fifth wheel, I think I saw it kind of go by quickly. Mm-hmm. Where it's like one of those things where you're like, did I just see something or not? You know, if your eyes and your mind are playing tricks on you. And then I think one time here, maybe in the foyer, I can't really recall. But, you brought up like sleep paralysis, Chris. And, I mean, we talked about, you and I off camera, we've talked about sleep paralysis before. And it's an interesting debate about sleep paralysis as far as whether or not it really, what is it? Science, I believe, don't quote me on this, would say that it's just your mind's waking up before your body does.
I don't know about that.
So you can't really move, there's nothing in the room with you. It's like your mind is just it just starts getting paranoid. So your mind wakes up before your body does, and that's why you can't move. Now, how many times have you had sleep paralysis, Chris?
A lot. I can't really tell you how many times. It's just happened a lot.
Okay, see, I've had it once.
But, yeah.
And that's what they say commonly.
Many times.
Okay. That's what they say commonly is people that suffer from sleep paralysis have it more than once. See, I've only had it once. And I'll tell you what, if you don't mind me talking about that experience. So I was living with my dad. He was sleeping in the living room. And I was, of course, sleeping in my bedroom. And I don't know what time it was, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. This was about 10 years ago. And, of course, I wake up, but I can't move. I can't open my eyes. It's very quiet in the room. Very quiet. And so quiet you wouldn't hear a cat meow. Anyway, so automatic dread. Okay, automatic, like it just doesn't. The only other time I felt automatic dread when I've woken up is when we went through our tornado afterwards. So automatic dread, could not open my eyes, could not move my pinky toe. Absolutely, like paralyzed. So, but my mind is going, okay, there's some things, and I perceived that there were two things in my room. And that's common too for sleep paralysis. If people are unsure about that, is that there's always this feeling of an entity, at least one, in the room. Historically speaking, it's always been portrayed as like a demon sitting on your chest or something like that, which is just kind of ironic. I don't want to get onto the whole demons, what are demons thing. So anyway, I know my dad's in the living room, so I want to call out for him. And the only thing that comes out of my mouth is like trying to say dad. It's just I could barely even like whisper. Okay. And I feel these beings in the room, and automatically my mind says, you can't take me. Like my will starts coming up. I'm not going to go. You can't have me. And then I kind of felt the presence leaving the room, and I slowly started sitting up and was able to open my eyes. Now, not getting too descriptive, not trying to draw out my description, but across from my bed was a window. I had blinds, and what that did is outside of that window was an alcove. An alcove is like a grassy like area with trees all around it. Okay. And on my left-hand side of the bed, there was another window that faced my neighbors. Okay. But on the alcove, through the alcove window, you could not see a street, and this is important. Okay. So when I sat up in the bed and I opened my eyes slowly, there were these lights that I could see coming through the blinds. Okay. So I found that was odd because you can't see any traffic going by there. There's no area where a car can park or anything of the sort. And it was white, very bright coming through the blinds. So I slowly walked up to the blinds and I opened them up, and I saw two lights shoot out past the trees, above the trees, and off into the distance. And what's interesting is that as big as that was of an experience for me, I don't remember even the next day or later that morning when I woke up again. I did not remember going back to sleep. You would think that you would, I would automatically go out into the living room, wake up my dad. Hey, did you notice anything strange? Did you hear me try to call out for you? Anything of the sort. I didn't ask him that until I woke up later that morning, but it wasn't a dream. It was not a dream. It was a sleep paralysis episode. And of course, believing in what I believe in, I don't think it was just my mind waking up before my body did. I don't think it was any kind of like fear due to, my imagination. I literally think that there was something in that, some things in my room that, of course, my instinct was, you can't have me. I'm not going. You can't take me. So, I look at it that way. Our sixth sense or, whatever have you is telling us the truth a lot of times. And a lot of people tend to ignore that. And so that's what my sixth sense was telling me several months ago that kind of made me doubt whether I fought it off or not. And I can get into that later if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
I was just going to say, when you said that you woke up and had that immediate feeling of dread, or when you woke up, I've described it as akin to having a panic attack. To me, it feels the same when I have a panic attack when I wake up into sleep paralysis. I've had it like 3 or 4 times. And to me, it feels like the exact same fear.
Okay. and that
Yeah.
and that makes sense.
And
Again, but you said you've had it several times, and Chris has had it several times, and I just find it
Yeah.
odd.
yeah.
I mean, and that follows. Not saying you guys didn't experience something akin to what I experienced, not at all. And that kind of follows more what science, mainstream science, says about sleep paralysis. Whereas with me, it's only been one time, and that's just kind of an odd thing. I suppose it could just happen to some people one time, but yeah, that dread, most definitely, absolutely,
Yeah.
the most fear
Yeah.
that I at least had at that
So
time. Sure.
I think it's interesting because not every time that I had it, I had the fear. But it also makes sense that you would have fear at first because when you can't move your body and your mind is awake, you're like, oh shit. And you panic and you're like, I can't move. And when it first happened to me, my thought was, I don't want to be stuck like this, forever. You start to like jump. But it changed very quickly. The first time it happened to me was the most unpleasant experience that I have ever had, one of that I have ever had, because it's like a 7 to 8 foot tall. This is the tallest one, also in my experience. Showed up in the room, and it was extremely tall. Couldn't see the windows because he was blocking the window that I had in my room, and that's when he reached over, and the fear amplified because it's weird because the type of fear that it is, at least that I've experienced, it's not like the fear that I can rationalize. Like, oh, he looks scary, so that's why I'm scared. And also, I can't move my body. It felt like a fear he was putting into me or whatever it was that I can't really explain. Because as soon as he disappeared, most of that fear went away. I was still terrified, but that weird dread feeling kind of just disappeared. My mom walked into the room and then immediately just vanished, and I could move my body again. And I was just like, all from just her walking in. It was weird.
It's like she
But
disrupted it.
yeah. And I started looking it up later in life, like, what is this? I'm tired of going through this and being afraid. So I wanted to try to understand it, maybe prevent it. And people were saying all online, YouTube, everywhere, oh, that's the perfect time to astral project.
I'll go ahead and I'll tie the loose thing that I left there because I don't want people to be on a cliffhanger if anybody's interested. So I said that I thought for years that I fought it off. It was an abduction attempt that I fought it off. Okay, and during that time when that occurred, I've always been into like aliens and Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, and all that kind of stuff. That's never going to go away. I was raised that way. Okay, but I really wasn't heavy into it like I am now. Okay. So again, it was a few months ago. We were sleeping in bed, and everybody's had nightmares. Okay. Usually, a nightmare consists of, well, I was on a train and then people were throwing ketchup packets at me. So I realized that this clown was laughing at me, and I punched this clown, and his face turned into an apple pie. It's all over the place. Usually nightmares are really just they're all over. They're convoluted as all heck. Okay, so this dream, I don't know how old I am, but it's me. Um, and I'm at my mom's house, and I'm walking out of my bedroom, and I'm going down the hall, and it's kind of very dark, kind of like hazy, not foggy, but just kind of like a hazy light throughout the entire house. So I walk down the hallway towards the kitchen. I flick on the light switch, and nothing happens. I call back in the dream, of course. I call back to my mom. I said, Mom, why won't the lights turn on? Calling towards her bedroom. And of course, the light's not coming on. And I'm looking at all the windows that are in the house, and they're like black, like there's a black film over them, but the edging is like yellowish, like a yellowish light. It's very dim. So then in the dream, it restarts. I'm in my bedroom. I walk out, walk down the hallway, flick the switch. Mom, why won't the lights come on? Notice the windows again, black, with the lighting around it. Third time it happens, same thing. Leave the bedroom, walk down the hall, flick the light, look at the windows. Mom, how come the lights aren't coming on? And then suddenly the transition is like that. There's no smooth transition in this nightmare. It's suddenly bam, I'm laying on a table and there are these three entities that are, it's like a Travis Walton. It's like the Travis Walton movie, okay? When they're trying to put a sheet over my face, and I'm fighting. They look angry, you know, their eyebrows are kind of curled down, and their eyes are black, and they're looking at me, and you can just see the dissatisfaction in their face, okay? Borderline anger. And I'm screaming in this dream, and I remember in the dream I'm trying to fight them off, putting this sheet over my face. And so I wake up screaming next to Melissa, and I was like, that was the most realistic nightmare I have ever had. That was like, it was like a regressed memory, very much like a regressed memory that I was experiencing through a nightmare. Yes, it does happen. Don't always need a therapist or, you know, someone to hypnotize you. And, you know, I wound back down. Then the next morning I thought about that first occurrence I told you about when I was with my dad. And I was like, you know what? Now I'm starting to doubt whether I really fought that off. Now I'm starting to wonder if what it was they came and got me. I know this is going to sound crazy to some people, and others it's not, and that's fine. Whichever way you're going to fall on that. But maybe they did take me, and they were just putting me back, and I didn't realize it at that time. You know what I mean? So kind of like reverse order. Like I thought they were trying to take me, but actually they already had, and they put me back. And they were frustrated because I was not following the simulation. I kept resetting the simulation of walking through Mom's house, like it was, and this felt like true to me when I was thinking about it. Walking through Mom's house, and maybe they expected me to do something different. I don't know, but I think that third time is when they got frustrated and they were like, okay, now maybe we should put it back, or who knows what else happened after that. And that's like the only alien dream like that I've had. So.
Just what I've talked about in our first podcast together, the sleep paralysis, my experience with the sleep paralysis, which I also, the first time I felt something, I didn't see anything. And there was a time that I did, or at least I thought I saw something, and it was, you know, cloaked black, very like dark, like Vanta black dark, like the darkest thing you've ever seen dark. And I did have like a door there where I saw this shadow being, which was a dark wooden door, and the color of the walls were painted like a really, not a very nice color blue, but it was a lighter blue. So in the dark, you're gonna see like the door shadow, and it's gonna look dark, but I swear I saw something in front of the door standing beside my bed. And of course that scared me because I thought, okay, that's the Grim Reaper. And because I was here and my boyfriend at the time was here, I was like, okay, well, he's coming to reap his soul. So this sucks. And I was really scared. And I do remember when I was able to move again, I put my hand on his heart to see if it was still beating, because I for sure expected him to be dead. And yeah, that was super scary. And the first time I was young and I was sick, like the flu or something, and I was sleeping on the couch. And you know when a body part is numb and you touch it and like you can feel but you can't feel, it's almost like there's this weird barrier. Well, it's how it felt when I was laying there and I came to and I couldn't move, and I felt somebody touching my face like this. or something. But it's like I could feel it, but I couldn't feel it. And I thought, because at the time I was very scared of ghosts, that was like number one fear of anything, and it's still kind of up there. Like I don't think I'd like to meet one. I'd rather not have them around if I get to choose. Yeah, but don't like let me know. Don't let me know you're here if you're here. Um, I haven't met Casper yet or anything, so I'm not kicking it with the ghosts. And I was terrified because I thought a ghost was touching me. That's pretty much it for my sleep paralysis, other than feeling presences that I don't know if they were there or not. I think I remember a door opening and once I was in a different room, different location, living with different people. But I think it's the first time that I realized that I could see the room, but my eyes weren't open as far as I knew. I couldn't move, but everything was the same. So it wasn't like in a dream where you're in a KFC and you're like, this is my home that I've grown up in my whole life, but it's a KFC. No, everything was the same. So it's like I was seeing the room, but I was not seeing the room. And I think I remember a door opening and maybe footsteps or feeling a presence approaching me and getting super scared. I've never calmed down like Chris has and popped out of my body. I haven't had sleep paralysis since I've heard of his account of trying to do that. So I don't know if that's something I'll try or just hope that I never have sleep paralysis again because I don't like it very much. So, yeah.
Sure, just like my nightmare. They may not have been doing me any harm, but the way I had interpreted it, or just like the time I had my, the way I had interpreted it due to my sleep paralysis, then sure, because it's something new, and that's why they don't just pop out and say, hey, how you doing, because then people go and they lose their crap, but you mentioned something important about Bledsoe and how once he had his experience, then the rest of the family started noticing things going on, like shadow people, spirits, entities. And this is a point that I try to tell people if I think they can understand it, and that is, the more you look up, you're going to see something. The more that you're aware of your surroundings, just in general, you will have more experiences. And I think a lot of people don't, because they're not paying attention to even the magic that's in the world that's basic, like a plant growing. And, and another thing that's interesting, try to segue into one of Melissa's stories and our stories real quick, is that feeling that you stated that, or sorry if I'm wrong, about everything's going to be okay. No harm's going to come to you. Everything will be fine. Now, if I'm trying to do a creepy pasta, which I'm trying to do a creepy pasta, that's just what they want you to think. See, that's what they want you to think. Mm-hmm. They want you to think that everything's okay. And a lot of the abduction stories, although horrifying, that is one of the common threads. Like, everything's going to be okay. We're not here to harm you. And then, of course, the media turns it into, well, yeah, they're vivisecting you on a table. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not to say, I love Dr. Greer. We talked about this before. Not to say that all aliens are benevolent. I do think that some are malevolent. I don't think it's nearly as much as the government wants to portray it as right now. But to segue back into Melissa's story, there was a time, remember when you have the everything will be okay? It wasn't that long ago. When you're walking Watson outside.
Oh, yeah.
Do you mind telling that story?
Are you going to share about the light?
I will.
Okay, well, it was like in the middle of the night, and I had went to go take the dogs outside. Well, one of them, I take them out individually. So, and it was, like just dark outside, and nothing really was going on. And I was standing out there while one of them was using the bathroom. And occasionally I'll feel kind of like there's stuff around the yard at night, but I don't usually, it doesn't really concern me. And I saw a flash in the sky. It would be kind of like a camera flash or lightning or something. And at that moment, I just felt like complete calm. And I was like, everything's fine. Like, I don't know how to really explain. Like, it just was like total zen. And so then I came in after that and told him about it. And then he had something go on while I was out there.
Yes, at the same time. Because, I mean, she wasn't out there long at all. So I'm in the kitchen. You know, we got some beats playing. You know, we're just enjoying each other's time. She had to take the dogs out. It was probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And so I'm in the kitchen. It's Tim, we like to hang out a lot in the kitchen. And we have a stove with a light bulb above it, of course. And it's an LED bulb. Now, LED bulbs, I mean, they have a long life. I've never really seen an LED bulb like dim extremely. So this light bulb, and ended up, I didn't know it at the time because it starts dimming real slow, dim, but it doesn't go all the way out. And then it lightens up again, normal brightness. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, what the heck? And then it dims again. And then it is bright back to its regular brightness. It's not an old bulb. It's fairly new. LED bulbs last a long time. Okay. So I'm like, wow, I have to tell Melissa about this. It was just strange. So she comes in and I said, you know, Melissa, the light bulb dimmed like slowly twice. And she says, yeah, I was out there with Watson and this bright flash of light went over my head and you said akin to, and I just felt like everything's fine. Everything's good. And there was not a thunderstorm. There was no storm clouds. We didn't receive any rain that night. We didn't hear any thunder. Nothing. Nothing. It was calm outside. And we have, you dare me say it, we have so many of those little experiences that have been happening to where, as I told somebody, all the stuff that I've talked about, if it happened to me like a year or two ago, even though I've been a believer about a lot of things, I would have said, wow, that's a great story. It'd be a story. But now what we experience is like, yeah, I can actually say that I experienced something like that. And there's so many other things to where people that might be listening to this or watching this right now might think that I'm completely off my rocker. But, you know, with experiences, you don't know until you have them, and you can't have them until you start opening your mind. And that was what, maybe 4 months ago?
The German?
The German over the speaker.
Did you ever tell him about it?
I think I told you about this before. I want you to go ahead and start that story, and I'll fill in the blanks.
Okay, so we were sitting in the kitchen again one night late and listening to some music on a big speaker that we put in the foyer sometimes. And what was it? We were joking with my dog Watson, who's like he's a terrier, so he's a terror. And Jonathan was calling him like.
Well, I'm sorry to interject. So we were listening to some trance music, okay?
Yeah.
And by this DJ, I'll say his name's Dr. Spook, okay? That really has nothing to do with the story. I firmly believe it has nothing to do with that's just the name of the DJ.
Right.
And it was the end of one of his mixes. No, really, it sounds funny, but it's true. So it was the end of one of his mixes. And, you know, if anybody's listened to trance or techno or even industrial music, every once in a while they'll put in like blurbs of from movies, like the new voice samples or something like that, or the news broadcasts or whatever. So it was this track where somebody said something in German.
Yeah, that's right.
But it was part of the song. Okay. And Watson came in.
We started making jokes about Hitler with him,
right.
and him being like a little Hitler reincarnated because he terrorizes the other dogs.
Right. I'm going, "Und you a little Hitler?
That's what he was doing.
Und mein Führer, you have become reincarnated into the dog."
Right. And then within what, a minute or two? Was it like, I
had to change the track because again, that
mix
was over. So I went to my phone, which I was streaming from, no free advertisement, Amazon Music. So I went to one of his other mixes, and it was about 2 minutes into the song. The volume of the song changed to really low. So instead of like boom, 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 it was
like it was being like something was gonna come over it.
Something did come over it.
Yeah, it did. Like, this gives me chill bumps.
Okay. Continue.
So like this transmission is the only way I can think of, came over the speaker, and it was this woman, and she was talking German, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is happening? And I was like, maybe it's part of the song, but it just kept, and in trance they'll put stuff like that, but it usually doesn't keep going and going and going and going. And she just kept talking, and I kept sitting here going, what is happening right now? And it was kind of freaking me out because I just was like, I don't understand what's going on. And she sounded urgent. I said, okay, well, I'm going to just feel whatever, instead of trying to understand what she's saying, since it's in German. I'm just going to try to feel what it is, she's feeling. And it was urgent. And then, like, you hear this man come in. And she's saying doctor. She was definitely saying doctor.
Which is why I said it really, in my opinion, had nothing to do with Dr. Spook, because we've listened to this DJ
a lot.
Probably like 30 plus of his mixes. Okay, really enjoy his work. So just go back a little bit. So she's coming over, and she's kind of like, again, we're trying to feel what she's trying to say by the inflection of her voice. And it's almost like at the whisper, and it's German.
And it's urgent.
It's kind of urgent, like she's trying to get some message across. And again, we're both like, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know German. I spoke to the dog, right? And this is important. It's very important. I spoke to the dog in mock German.
Right.
Okay, hold on to that. So she's going on, and it must have been like a dialogue. Just she was speaking for like a good minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then suddenly, and this is a mono speaker. Yes. It's not. I don't have two of them connected where I'm Bluetooth streaming. Okay.
So there's no surround sound.
So there's no surround sound on it. You heard this door open in the distance, and these footsteps are approaching this woman who starts to stop talking. Okay. And it's this calm, very calculated German guy who's speaking in German. Something to the akin of, "Wonder Fräulein, like, what are you doing?" He's kind of got this, the tone in his voice is, "What are you doing?" And she's just, all of a sudden, her urgency just turns into, which is crazy because you felt like he was in the room.
Like, that's what I feel him. And I was like, what is presence. Happening? It was crazy.
Again, it sounds crazy. Too. Yeah, it sounds completely crazy. And so she starts just kind of being resigned to the fact. Okay, there's resignation in her voice, and she starts saying mumbling something about doctor. This doctor, and then suddenly it stops and goes. Meanwhile, the whole time you've been hearing the trance playing very low in the background. Like transmission has gone over the trance. Okay. All of a sudden, like that, it switches to a band that I've never heard of. I've heard of them, but I've never listened to them. And the name of the band is a punk band called Cro-Mags. And the music is not like boom, boom, boom. It's not like trance. Yeah. Instead, it's
grindy drone. Like creepy. It's kind of creepy in the middle of the night.
Creepy, dark metal. Dark metal. And I'm standing there with the phone by this time. She's sitting in the chair, and I'm looking. Right. You can feel it with me even describing it. And I'm holding on to the phone. Does it say Cro-Mags? No. It says Dr. Spook, whatever music track. So I was like, okay, hold on. So I stopped it. Okay. I went back to the original, to the beginning of the track. That was not there. Figured out it was Cro-Mags. Went to the Cro-Mags album, which coincidentally was called 2020, which is strange. Okay, found out the name of the song was Death and Destruction. You could look it up. I think there's many variations.
Yeah,
and
it's weird.
nothing in that was a man and a woman German speaking from the beginning of that
We
album
listened through to see.
to the end of the
find
tracks
that
on
anywhere.
that album.
We couldn't find it.
And to this day, that was probably the most extreme communication that we've ever had that we could not understand because we don't speak German. Okay. And it was because we were vibing so high that night. Our vibration in the house.
Yeah, we were feeling great.
We were
just.
You can vibe with, and I'm sure you two know, you can vibe with each other at such a high level. And so we were vibing so high, and then me making fun of Watson speaking in mock German triggered this transmission from this German woman who, I don't know if it was psychic, I don't know if it was EBE, I don't know, as far as like an alien entity that was thinking that we knew German and was trying to pass on something about, and then of course finding out the name of the album is 2020. This happened like 6 months ago, by the way. Yeah. So it was like 2020. Are you trying to tell me something about the pandemic? Who the hell knows, right? But it just went from happy to what the heck to evil.
It was weird.
But evil.
The lyrics to that song really aren't bad.
Right.
Like I looked up the lyrics to that song, and it's kind of talking about like why are humans all about death and destruction, kind of
killing each other.
It's time to wake up. It was just weird.
So then I thought she was the one, whoever was contacting us through there, she was the one that manipulated that vibration, radio wave, audio wave, mind wave, I don't know, to change it to, okay, like we're in distress, not her. Humanity is in a distress, and it seems like it's really chaotic. But what are we doing? Let's get our crap together, kind of a thing. So right. It's not like she was calling out for help for her. She was trying to reach people on that frequency that could understand. Now, we looked up online.
If that had ever happened before.
If it had ever happened to anybody before.
As best as you can research something like that.
And you found one post on Reddit from 2 years ago about some guy that said that he was out partying drunk.
Yes.
He came home. He turned on his radio. He was in Germany.
Yeah. And it was English that came through.
And it was English.
But he didn't put what the English said. And I just don't even know.
Boom, right?
I don't know.
It just exploded. It just melts my brain just to think about that. And here's the thing. This goes back to, it was not an EVP.
Yeah, it wasn't like an EVP, like on a recording. If you were paranormal investigating, you get an EVP. It's more like kind of like an electronic whisper. This was just straight up talking, like somebody would be talking through a speaker in the room
with a microphone.
It wasn't whispery. Sure. It was clear.
Goes. I really think that it was more like I had said before. It
felt
alive,
different than like.
They were alive.
Spirit. I don't even know how to explain that. Like, I don't know how to explain how it could feel like just a little different.
Yeah, because EVPs are very kind of like like you get a ghost box, which we're looking into getting one because of all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's very like fragmented. It just searches through the AM or FM depending on what you have it.
Well, that's still not even really EVP. It's kind of.
But that's kind of going through the radio waves, and then of course then you have the EVP where you're walking around. You're like, hey, what's your name? Please talk to me. And you don't hear anything, and then you play the recording back, and they're like, my name's Bob.
Yeah.